Good day, everyone. Welcome to Blacklogic. So today we're witnessing significant developments with the federal workforce. Elon Musk, serving as a senior advisor to President Trump, recently issued a directive mandating federal employees to report their weekly productivity of face determination. Now, this unprecedented move has led to confusion and resistance across very many of agencies. Notably, the Department of Defense has instructed its civilian workforce to disregard Musk's requests, highlighting internal disagreements and the challenges of implementing such sweeping changes. And I question this as well. It's one thing auditing, going after fraud, waste, and abuse. Now we're getting to supervisor or manager sort of details of what did you do last week of all the federal employees to report to an agency that was essentially designed for government efficiency. I know it kind of fits the bill. It's probably within the scope of business as we're defining what some of these people are actually doing versus getting the new appointees like Kash Patel. Kash Patel came out with a Twitter tweet or X tweet, whatever you want to call it nowadays. But nonetheless, he was saying that, hey, hold off on doing that. We will let them know how our productivity is now that I'm, the new FBI director. We're going to get on the FBI deputy director. There's a lot of things that have been coming about against him, about his race, about his ethnicity. Who is he? Why did he get picked, etc. It's a long history there. But Kash Patel basically stated, like, we'll give Deutsche our productivity at our own time and our own rate. And essentially, he's trying to hold off any direct contact between the employees of the FBI. And again, this is just one example of the different federal agencies that are pushing back against Musk productivity emails. Say, hey, what did you do last week? Give us 3 bullet points. Okay, first and foremost, I don't know how large Deutsche is. I don't know how many employees it is. And the Daily Beast came out with a story. I'm not going to even show you the mess. They showed like 3 or 4 people. I believe 2 of the people were of Indian descent from East India. And one of them seems to be a Caucasian person. But they were trying to say, look at these goons. Okay, I will hate to label anyone as goons because they're doing what they are directed to do. And that's sort out fraud, waste, and abuse from the government. Now, as far as Elon Musk sent out an email of all these federal employees as if he were their boss. Now, my thing is you go to the boss, you go to the director, you go to the chief, and you say, hey, we need a report of the efficiency and or non-efficiencies that you guys are doing within your workforce. And not the last week, because again, this could be a weekly report because you asked for, what did you guys do last week? Give us 3 bullet points. Like, oh, well, I did my daily operations. What's that? People essentially being vague. He want details. You're not their boss. There's people in place, supervisors, managers, directors, chiefs, etc., that request for the whole organizations. But they want to go line by line. And again, they'll probably feed this in some sort of AI engine to point out key things, kind of like when you submit a resume, right? They have, what is it, ASL? Forgot the terminology that they look for these key words to see if you fit the job description. Whether it be criteria for having a degree, skills, licenses, etc., but also some of the capacities of positions that you worked in. And I kind of get the pushback. Okay, I kind of get the pushback, but to be an angel's advocate, I can see how the efficiencies of federal employees do fit within the Deutsche scope. So again, I can understand the pushback and I can understand the request, but nonetheless, I don't think this is something that Elon Musk should really pay attention to. I believe you should go out of big government and see all the fraud, waste, abuse in our government instead of going out of the workers, because again, they've already fired 20,000 workers. Now, as we turn to international affairs, United States and Ukraine are on the verge of finalizing a significant minerals deal. This is very important to America, by the way, because this agreement is seen as a pivotal in strengthening ties between the two nations and potentially bringing an end to Russia's 3-year-long war in Ukraine. Now, the Ukrainian deputy prime minister announced that both countries are in the final stage of negotiations with most key details around ironed. Now, this deal will grant the U.S. access to Ukraine's rich deposits of rare earth minerals essential for various industries, while providing Ukraine with much needed security guarantees. And the reason why I stated that this is important is because Ukraine has been given a blank check by Joe Biden. And for quite some time, we've spent over $200 billion supporting and resourcing a war that America is not in. And we have gotten nothing in return. See, when China goes over to Africa and colonize Africa economically, not by force, they say, we just want to mine some of your rich, earth minerals, and we will build roads, and we'll help you with your sanitation and irrigation and the infrastructure of sewage, essentially. But they're building roads and lights and making Africa more industrialized so they could again pave the streets so they can take their minerals. Now, again, this is a deal that they're having with the government. So it's not as though they're giving them blood loans or blood deals where they're stating, we'll give you $50 billion that we can mine this shaft here for 10 to 20 years. Or we'll loan you 50 billion, 25 billion of minerals, and you pay us back another 25 billion, knowing that a lot of these African countries won't be able to pay that back because a lot of these African countries, unfortunately, when the white colonizers from Europe left a lot of black leaders in place, from my knowledge and from what I'm hearing from a lot of these people from different African countries, state that their governments are corrupt. So a lot of these government officials in Africa are actually living in Dubai. They're actually living in Europe, living it up off the money that their colonial powers had left them in positions. Now, when it comes to China, China is investing in Africa. On the surface, they're building roads, they're building houses, they're building schools, they're building lights, they're building electrical infrastructures. But beneath the surface, they're taking far more than what the deal originally has essentially mapped out. Now, and again, some of that may seem as conjecture, but again, these are reports from people from a lot of these African countries that I visit, like Ghana, South Africa, and Kenya. But nonetheless, this is the world that we live in today. So again, this is a great deal for us because for all the military resources, for all the billions and billions and billions of dollars that we're giving to Ukraine, we are finally get something back. So this deal, in my opinion, is a landmark deal that should have been done prior to all the aid given to Ukraine. And this will make Americans more invested in Ukraine because we're getting something out of the deal instead of a big fat debt that we have been accumulating for our national debt. So this is a good thing. Now, when it comes to LA, I don't know if you guys have been hearing, a lot of the U.S. immigration officials have launched a new round of enforcement operations in the LA area. And this particular initiative aims to identify and apprehend individuals residing in the country illegally. And the operation have sparked a range of reactions within the community, with some expressing support for upholding immigration laws, while others voice concerns over potential impacts and families of local businesses. Now, last week, I've been on a week hiatus and I'm back, guys. I probably will never take that long again. I was actually itching to give you guys this information. But there was a story that came out last week about a teacher who put an X tweet out stating that he will inform ICE of illegal immigrants that is in his classroom. Now, a lot of these illegal immigrants were from, if I can recall correctly, from pre-kindergarten up to 8th grade, essentially within his school, that he was going to inform ICE and people who are associated with ICE of illegal or potentially illegal immigrants in his class. And a lot of people was touting each other like, this is so wrong. This is unbelievable that someone would do something egregious against children. And then in the same breath, I was thinking about, isn't this a ploy to join families together? Because again, Obama passed the legislation of DACA that was joining families who were here illegally, okay? Now, a lot of illegal immigrants, unfortunately, have come from South and Central America. Now, we know that a lot of the illegal immigrants come from around the world: China, India, Africa, Caribbean, Europe, illegal immigrants from Europe as well. But a great majority of them are from Mexico and Central American countries, even by the way of South America. But nonetheless, when we're talking about separating families, if you're going to, I don't want to say apprehend, but if you want to go and investigate children who are here illegally by the way of their parents, aren't you joining families together? And a lot of people may not look at that. I know people who quote unquote label themselves as liberals may not look at it that way, but it's the same thing that Obama did, but flipping it, okay, reversing it. Instead of bringing people who are illegally in the country to join those with people who are, I'll say citizens because they were born inside the country, but who eventually got here legally by legal parents. This is the flip side of it. We're going to take those people who are illegally here and join them with people in their country and their family. So again, I know there's maybe a lot of pushback about this, the way they're going about this, but again, this is the way how you think about it. I think about it as joining families as well. Again, it just really depends on what side you want to take. I'm choosing the side of their family. If their family's in Mexico, if their family is in Ecuador, if their family's in El Salvador, then joining with their family. But taking people who are illegal to the country because they didn't come through the regular immigration pathway, then they're coming into the country to join with their family here versus sending people back to their home country. I guess that's asinine to think the other way around of bringing them here. But again, there's a lot of things that the Democrats did that is being revealed. And this is good for a lot of people that look like me. Not that you join the Republicans, not that you join conservatives, but you have transparency of how the Democrats have been lying to black folk for a very long time. And about the things that they were quote unquote doing for us. And the only thing they've been doing is symbolism. And we're going to get into symbolism when it comes to Trump, because I know a lot of liberals and Democrats see Trump aren't giving you guys tangibles either. He's just giving you symbolism. But in a way, the Democrats for a very long time haven't even given us symbolism. They've given us a lot of disrespect, but I'll touch on that a little bit later, okay? Now, I know that you guys know that I was going to talk about it because in a move to honor the nation's most, vigorous figures that have been overlooked and underlooked for quite some time, President Trump has unveiled plans for a National Garden of American Heroes, announced during a Black History Month celebration at the White House. The garden will feature statues of prominent Black Americans, including Harriet Tubman, Martin Luther King Jr., and Jackie Robinson. And this initiative seeks to celebrate the diverse contributions of American icons and preserve their legacy for future generations. Yet, Trump came out and said, these are American heroes. What happened to all those people who were non-Black? What happened to all those people who are non-Black Americans? And I'm not talking about white Americans. This is mostly people that seemed as though they were coming from the Caribbean. Not all. These people seemed as though they were coming from the continent of Africa and the different African countries. Not all. But they were saying that Black Americans. Oh, let me not forget our Hispanic friends. Those who may be illegal or citizens. Saying that, oh, this pertains to you guys too. You guys can get deported. Black Americans can't get deported. Again, recorded history have us dated back to 1526 in this country. And we've been here for quite some time. We built the nation. We built the very foundation of the nation. Yeah, other groups came later, Irish, Chinese, they came later, but the first railroads were built by Black Americans. The first roads were built by Black Americans. I didn't say all the roads, I said the first roads. So we have to look at this very, very keenly of some of the word used, but don't take my word for it. I think it's only good that we let President Trump tell you some of the contributions and how he's going to honor Black Americans, Black Americans, Black Americans.
Including the statue of Prince Estabrook in our new National Garden of American Heroes. We're going to be doing a garden of American heroes. And now that I think of it, I must tell you, sadly, most of them, I guess all of them are not with us any longer. I was going to put Tiger in the garden, but maybe you don't want to be there. I maybe should wait a little bit, huh? Like about 50, I think I'm going to wait about 50 years, all right? But Tiger's going to make it, okay? But I'm a little afraid to tell him yes, because he'd be the only one that's living. I don't know, Tiger. Tiger's rejecting that offer, right? We will honor hundreds of our greatest Americans to ever live, including countless Black Americans, icons. The garden will predominantly feature incredible women like Harriet Tubman, Rosa Parks, Billie Holiday, Aretha Franklin, and Coretta Scott King. And I will showcase extraordinary. It will be something very extraordinary. It's going to be producing, we're going to produce some of the most beautiful works of art in the form of a statue for men like Frederick Douglass, Booker T. Washington, Jackie Robinson, what a great athlete that was, Martin Luther King Jr., Muhammad Ali, he's not a bad athlete. What do you think, Muhammad? Not too bad. And the late Kobe Bryant. People love Kobe Bryant. And we're going to save Tiger Woods for another time. That's all that I can. I'm sorry.
Well, so that was Donald Trump's contributions to Black America. And a lot of people from the Democratic side say, well, Donald Trump is not giving Black Americans any tangible as well. He just giving you more symbolism. Well, we haven't gotten symbolism from the Democratic Party in quite some time. At least he's acknowledging it during a very pivotal time during Black History Month. And this is going to essentially counsel a lot of the rhetoric stating that Donald Trump is this and Donald Trump is that he's not appointing any Black people to his cabinet. I think he's appointed maybe 2 or maybe 3. We can kind of comb through those at a later time and date. But nonetheless, this is just more symbolism. Well, we have gotten symbolism for the Democratic Party for quite some time, and we have never gotten any tangibles from them. So what's the difference? The difference is this. They thought that Donald Trump would never do anything like this. Just recognizing Black people and some of the great prominent people that we have, and not just people who are part of slavery abolishment like Frederick Douglass, not just great people who helped free some of the slaves like a Harriet Tubman, not just great people who were athletes like Jackie Robinson, but great people who contribute to America and the very foundation of it. George Washington Carver. We have a lot of people and a lot of inventions. I've been showing you guys before I took my break there. I've been showing you guys a lot of the contributions that Black Americans have invented and innovated. And you guys should really go check out a lot of my latest broadcasts so you can see the very prominent people. Again, Black Americans love this country just as any other body. And this is why we never really coined the term African American. That came from the Rainbow Coalition by the way of Jesse Jackson. And Jesse Jackson got that from another guy. And we've never accepted that term. Okay, because this is the reason why. When you look at the U.S. Census Bureau and you look at the demographics of race and how they look at it, and I've done this plenty of times before, I won't do it here because we have so much more to cover. They say, what are the races that America recognizes? The first one is white. That's it, just white. And it tells you from the different places where white people come from, North Africa, Europe, etc. Then it says Black and or African American. That's because they notice that Black Americans want to be called Black. We don't want to be called African. You know why? The same reason why white Europeans in this country who are maybe second, third, or fourth generation, okay, who's probably been here since 1776, they don't label themselves as European. They label themselves as white. I'm a white American, I'm American, etc. That's the same thing with Black Americans. We are American. We just have dark melanated hue skin. We're not African American. There's no ties to us, to the African continent. We're talking about thousands of years that our people have been here. Not just Native Americans been here, but again, if you go back and you read the story of before 1619, there was 1526. There's many people who've done the story. I believe the BBC, ABC, NBC, all the things that end in C probably did a story about this. That the Spanish conquistadors, by the way of Portugal and Spain, brought over 100 enslaved Africans. And this was during the year 1526. They had a shipwreck, and I'm just paraphrasing. They had a shipwreck. But nonetheless, they started to build a colony between South Carolina and Georgia. But those enslaved Africans rose up against their European colonizers and ran off into the woods. And what the Spanish conquistadors noted is that these enslaved Africans ran off with people in the woods that looked like them. I don't know any red Mongolian type Asian or Alaskan that looks like a Black person. So that gives us historical history that a lot of our people have been here before 1526. But even if you don't want to go with that narrative, that's conjecture. We can go still with the report of 1526, and you guys should definitely research that. So again, we don't have any ties to Africa other than our DNA because our people have been here for thousands of years, if not hundreds of years, more so than other people. So again, Black Americans are very different than people from the continent of Africa who may be first or second, third generation, okay? But most of them are first and second generation than those who have been here for hundreds, if not thousands of years. So that is the importance of that. And why do I bring that up? Because it leads us right into our next story here that's important, because in a notable administrative shift, President Trump has appointed Dan Bongino, a former Secret Service agent and conservative media personality, as the new deputy director of the FBI. Known for his unwavering support of Trump and his outspoken conservative views, he is stepping into a role traditionally held by seasoned FBI professionals. This move has sparked a mix of praise and concerns across the political spectrum. Now, a lot of people have been asking about, who is this guy? Is he black? Is he this? Is he that? He looks like a black man who's just light-skinned. And to their point, he does. Now, he's not as dark as me. He doesn't have as strong as features as me, but he does look black in some regards. So that brings me to this. I just typed in his name, and they went right from Bianco was born and raised in, Queens, New York. This is by Wikipedia. Nobody really listens to Wikipedia. But it goes in, who is Dan Bongino? Trump names podcast the deputy FBI director. Trump names conservative media personality. And they keep going, okay, where does Dan Bongino hail from? Parents, nationality. He is of Italian descent that they're stating. And he is a good amount of black in him. He looks very similar to my half Italian, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And you can keep going on and on about his ethnicity, his race, where he's from, his background. What we do know, he is an ex-Secret Service agent who is now a media personality, conservative personality. But a lot of people was really talking about his ethnicity. Is this another black man in office? Now we got Kash Patel as the FBI director, who's Indian, who's dark melanated hue. And now we have what seems to be a black person, but they're stating that he's Italian. How does his skin look so black? And again, people are saying he has a good amount of black in him. And again, I'm not trying to make this race-based. I just searched up his name to see who he was. I thought it was very, very interesting. So let me break down some things for you guys to get more in depth about this. Now, if you guys don't know this history, that's quite all right, because we have to know the history about black people in Italy. And I know what state of Italy that you guys are already going to lean to, because I know you guys are somewhat historians yourself. Sicily. It gets us on the question of who was the Moors. And this has been thrown up and tossed around. The Moors just wasn't black. The Moors were white as well. The Moors were Arabs, and the Moors were this. The original Moors were black. It's kind of like the Black Panthers. The initial group of the Black Panthers were black. Then Black Panthers sought to accept other ethnicities, Asians, some whites in the Black Panthers, believe it or not. There was a famous Asian person who was essentially in the Black Panthers who came out to be an op. He came out to be an op, but nonetheless, he was Asian inside the Black Panthers because he coincided with a lot of the things they were doing, being very progressive in their neighborhoods and taking care of their people. And he wanted that for his people as well. I forgot the ethnicity of this Asian person. I want to say he was either Vietnamese. I don't quote me on that, but there were some non-black members in the Black Panthers, and you can look that up as well. So again, the first original Moors were black. Okay, and you can check this out. This is National Geographic, and I'm gonna read some excerpts here very quickly, and then I'm gonna break down some things about the Moors. It states here that instead, the concept of Moors have been used to describe alternatively the reign of Muslims in Spain, Europeans of African descent, and others for centuries. Beginning in the Renaissance, Moor and Blackamoor were also used to describe any person with dark skin. Why is this important? Why is this important? Because we're going to break down the Black Moors, a term often referring to the Muslim inhabitants of North Africa, particularly the Berbers and the Arabs. They played a monumental role in shaping European civilization. Yes, Black people helped white people. That's a thing. When they conquered and ruled parts of Spain, from 711 to 1492, and then occupied Sicily, Italy, for 250 years from 827 to 1091, they brought with them a wealth of knowledge, technology, and culture that significantly influenced the European Renaissance. Now, let's go over some of the things that they contribute. Advanced sanitation and hygiene. The Moors revolutionized sanitation practices in medieval Europe, where personal hygiene was largely neglected. Their influence introduced public baths, toilets and sewage systems, soap making techniques. Yeah, the Moors used ingredients like olive oil, ash, and lime to create perfume soaps, which later influenced soap production across Europe. Tiled water fountains in irrigation. Running water was commonly in Moorish palaces, unlike the rudimentary water system of early medieval Europe homes. What about agriculture and irrigation system? The Moors were masters of irrigation, transformed dry lands into fertile farming regions. Okay, they introduced advanced hydraulic engineering such as quants, underground water channels, water wheels to lift water from irrigation. Terrace farming, they developed tiered farming methods that allow crops to thrive in mountainous areas. Crop rotation and fertilizer, they improved European agriculture with the use of fertilizers and rotation methods to keep soil healthy. New crops introduced by the Moors included citrus fruits like oranges, lemons, and limes, sugarcane, cotton, almonds, rice, saffron, coffee. Now, they also had history of giving European herbal medicines and pharmacology. The Moors were pioneers in medicine and pharmacology, preserving and expanding the works of Greek, Roman, and Persian scholars. Urban remedies, they cultivated and used medicine herbs such as thyme, rosemary, mint, and saffron for healing. They established some of the first hospitals and pharmacies in Europe, including in cities like the Granada. Surgical techniques, the famous Moorish physician, that name I will leave because I'm just going to butcher it. He wrote a medical encyclopedia that describes surgical instruments and procedures, which was later used in European medical schools. What about culinary influences of spice and herbs and flavors? The Moors revolutionized European cuisine by introducing exotic spices and new cooking methods. Spices like cinnamon, nutmeg, cloves, cumin, saffron, and ginger were brought from the Middle East and North Africa into Europe. Spanish dishes such as paella were inspired by North African couscous. Marzipan and pastries. The Moors introduced sugar-based desserts like marzipan and pastry, made them with almonds and honey. Coffee culture. The Moors helped spread the use of coffee, which later became a staple in European cafes. Also, when it comes to technology, mathematics, and astronomy, the Moors were mathematical geniuses who introduced advanced algebra and numerical systems to Europe. The Arab numerals 1, 2, 3 replaced the Roman numerals. Algebra, also known as algebra, the Moors expanded on Greek mathematics, which was later studied in Europe through books like Al-Khwarizm, worked on algebra. Trigonometry and calculus, the Moors developed sine, cosine, and tangent functions, which later influenced navigations and physics. All of these great things, the Moors improved astronomical instruments, helping European explorers navigate across the seas. Agriculture and engineering, the Moors introduced stunning agricultural styles that blended Islamic, North African, and Mediterranean influences. And a lot of these great works remains one of the greatest examples of Moorish architectures. Geometric patterns and mosaic tiles replaced the rigid structure of early medieval Europe. The pointed arches and domes later influenced Gothic architecture in European cathedrals. Moorish influence still can be seen in southern Spain, Italy, and Portugal today. The Moors established Europeans' first great centers of learning, where scholars from all over the world came to study. University of Cordoba, one of the Europeans' earliest universities, boasting vast libraries and scientific advancements. Preservation of ancient knowledge, the Moors translated and preserved works of Plato, Aristotle, Ptolemy, and Galileo, which later helped fuel the European Renaissance. Notable figures influenced by Moorish teachings included Leonardo da Vinci, engineering and anatomy, Galileo, astronomy, Christopher Columbus with navigation. Also, when we talk about the Moors, we introduce the luxurious textiles and garments that changed European fashions. When it comes to silks, cottons, and linen, they imported and produced high quality silks and cottons, and which replaced the rough woolen garments worn in medieval Europe. Yeah, you got your fine garments from Black people. It's okay. We still stylish today, and that's why we're one of the rambunctious groups of them all, and outlandish is some of our attire. We'll get on that later. But dyes and embroidery. Now, the Moors popularized bright dyed fabrics, gold embroidery, and decorative brocade patterns. Leather craftsmanship. They perfected leather training and shoemaking, giving rise to Cordovan leather. Why do you think some of the Italian shoemakers got some of their methods from, of the early shoemakers we're talking about? They got that from Moors, because again, the Moors occupied Sicily, Italy for over 250 years. Now, the Moors reshaped European civilization in ways that are still visible today. Their contributions to science, medicine, agriculture, architecture, and culture laid the groundwork of the European Renaissance and transformed Spain, Italy, and Portugal into thriving cultural hubs. Without the Moors, Europe would have remained centuries behind in terms of scientific knowledge, hygiene, and education. Their influence broke the barriers of the Dark Ages and set the stage for modern civilization. Because a lot of people have been asking, during this mid-time point in Europe, how did the medieval Europeans get out of this slump? How did they get out of this bubonic plague and black disease? How did they get out of this? It was the ways of the Black Moors. It was the ways of the original Moors that came over there with herbs, spices, medicines, technology, mathematics, etc. This is the way how Europeans got out of medieval Europe. And you don't have to take my word for it. I'm not saying that one race or one group of people are better than the other. I believe that we all, in some way, have contributed to life. We've contributed to advancement. We've contributed to innovation for the world to progress to where we are here today. And then I know the question that you guys are going to ask. I know the question. Why is Africa in the condition it is today if they had all of these technologies, they had all of this knowledge, they had all of this innovations that we speak of today? And I only have one word for you guys: colonization. Africa is probably 50 to 100 years behind the Western world. And we have to look at significant points of history of how time literally stopped in Africa, of where Africa is today. And why I speak about this being a Black American, just like white Americans are here today, you don't say European American. You say, I'm a white American, or I'm just American. You throw race out of the whole equation, but you know what you are. But you're American. But you will never attach the European, but you will say that your ancestors are from Europe. Just as well, Black Americans are Americans. And we won't deny that our ancestors originated in Africa. They had dark melanin and hue skin. So there you have it. That is the reason why. You guys have a great and wonderful day. See you guys this evening. This is Blacklogic.